I've worked in car sales long enough to recognize three kinds of customers the moment they walk through the glass doors of my dealership. The overconfident ones who think they can outsmart us. The indecisive ones who need constant reassurance. And then, the ones who know exactly what they're doing but pretend they don't. The last group? They scare me the most. It was a humid Tuesday morning in July when she walked in. She didn't look like trouble. If anything, she looked ordinary. Mid-30s, slim build, sharp features, a navy blazer over a white shirt, practical, polished, and completely unreadable. She paused in the entryway like she was cataloging the room, then walked past the glossy new sedans and straight to the front desk. "I'm looking for a used mid-size SUV," she said to my receptionist. Her voice was even. "Something reliable, under 50,000 miles. I've already seen the listing on your website, the 2021 Mazda CX-5, silver." The receptionist pointed her in my direction and I braced myself. I had posted that listing myself. Truthfully, that car had a few more quirks than the online description let on. A subtle oil leak. A previous accident that hadn't shown up on the basic Carfax. Nothing illegal. Just creatively described. "Hi there," I said, extending my hand. "I'm Jacob, floor manager. You've got good taste. That Mazda's one of our most asked about vehicles." She didn't shake my hand. "I'm Claire," she replied coolly. "I'd like to test drive it, if that's okay." "Of course. Right this way." I handed her the keys and let her take it for a spin. 10 minutes later, she was back. "It drives well," she said. "Can we talk numbers?" We sat down at my desk. She crossed her legs and leaned back, the very image of calm. But something about her made me nervous. She didn't fidget, she didn't blink much, and she asked precise, surgical questions about the car's history, like someone who knew where lies like to hide. I decided to steer the narrative. "We just had a full inspection done last week," I said. "Clean title, new tires, no issues whatsoever. The listed price is $22,999, but I might be able to get my manager to shave a few hundred off, just for today." She nodded slowly, then said, "Can I see the inspection report?" Crap. I hadn't actually gotten one done yet. It was on my to-do list, but that wouldn't stop me. "I don't have the printout on me, but I can get it from our service team." "Sure," she said. "I'll wait." I got up, walked to the back, and grabbed a generic form from last month's file, changed the date and returned with it. She read every line. Twice. Then she smiled. "Great," she said, pulling a slim leather folder from her tote. "Let's draw up the papers." She signed everything without hesitation. No haggling, no flinching, no suspicious looks. I started to relax. The deal was done. I even added an extended warranty with some markup. Easy commission. Or so I thought. 2 days later, she was back. But this time she wasn't smiling. "I'd like to speak to the general manager," she said. "He's not available today," I replied. "But I can help you." "No, you can't," she said flatly. "I know exactly what you did." "What are you talking about?" She opened her folder and began laying out documents. A certified mechanic's report. They found an oil leak and non-OEM parts installed after a front-end collision. Here's the VIN history. There was an unreported insurance claim. "Oh, and this inspection report you gave me. It's identical to one I found online from a dealership in Virginia last year. You didn't even bother changing the technician's name." I stared at her, my throat dry. She leaned in. "Here's the thing, Jacob. I'm a lawyer, consumer protection law. I specialize in auto fraud cases. So now, you have a choice." I looked down at the folder. It was meticulous. "This could go one of two ways," she continued. "You can take the car back, refund me fully, and we both walk away quietly. Or, I file a lawsuit, report this to the Attorney General's office, and your dealership gets audited." I opened my mouth to protest, but nothing came out. She wasn't bluffing. Her tone wasn't theatrical. It was surgical. "I need to make a call," I muttered. "Do that." I walked to the back room, heart pounding. I wasn't the owner, just the guy who managed deals and kept the wheels turning, but what she was threatening could kill us. If this went public, we'd be done. And something about this wasn't right. She had let me sell her a bad deal. Willingly. She'd known something was off. Why had she let it go through? Unless she had set me up. I stood in the break room staring at my phone like it was going to tell me what to do. Every instinct screamed at me to call my boss Tom and dump the problem on him, but Tom had made it clear from the beginning. You handle the floor, you take the heat. I don't want to hear about it unless someone's bleeding or suing. Well, one of those was about to happen. Still, I called. He didn't answer. I paced for another 30 seconds, then walked back out to where Claire sat. She was still in the same position, legs crossed, arms relaxed, folder closed, and resting on her lap like she had all the time in the world. The moment I stepped into her line of sight, she gave me a look, not smug, just patient. I can issue a refund, I said, voice low. We'll take the car back, cancel the warranty, and clear the contract. That's a start, she replied, standing. I want it in writing. Now. I led her to one of the private glass offices usually reserved for high-end clients. My hands were trembling slightly as I typed the cancellation notice. She reviewed every word before signing, but as she was gathering her things to leave, she paused. You didn't seem like a bad guy, Jacob, she said. That's what makes this worse. I looked up, something cold spreading through my chest. Worse? She stared at me. You didn't try to upsell me out of greed. You did it because this is just how things are done here. You're part of a system that rewards shortcuts and punishes honesty. I couldn't argue. I didn't even want to. I could have walked away, she continued. But I needed to know how far you'd go. And now I do. She left. I sank into the chair, heart hammering. My job wasn't just in danger. I was. The next day, Tom finally returned my call. I told him everything. He didn't yell. He just went quiet for a long time before asking one question. Did she record you? I don't think so. You better hope you're right. That's when I realized something that chilled me. I had no idea who Claire really was. Sure, she said she was a lawyer. But what kind? How powerful? She knew how to find buried VIN reports and dig through inspection records. She caught details even I hadn't noticed. Tom promised to handle it, but I could tell he wasn't sure how. We agreed to sit tight and hope she didn't file. But 3 days later, she came back. Not alone. This time, she was accompanied by a man in a suit, early 50s, salt and pepper hair, sharp features, and a face I recognized immediately. His name was Marcus Delgado, a consumer affairs investigator known in our circles for shutting down a dealership in Baltimore last year. They walked in like they owned the place. Claire didn't look at me. Marcus did. Jacob, he said, we're here to review some documentation on a recent transaction involving a 2021 Mazda. Is there a private room we can use? I nodded. Numb. Yes, right this way. As they sat down, Marcus opened a black folder and began laying out documents. Claire remained silent, observing. I sat across from them, feeling like a frog under a magnifying glass. We've received a formal complaint and opened a preliminary investigation into potential fraudulent misrepresentation, Marcus said calmly. We're also examining how inspection documents are issued and presented to customers. You're the floor manager. That makes you responsible. My mouth went dry. Look, I didn't. He held up a hand. I'm not here to arrest anyone, not today, but I am going to ask some questions, and I'd strongly advise you answer them truthfully. He asked about inspection practices, document handling, VIN checks, and how deals are authorized. Every answer I gave seemed to dig me deeper. When the interview was over, he left me with one final thought. Jacob, your choices in the next 48 hours could determine whether you're a witness or a defendant. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Claire's words. You're part of a system. She hadn't just wanted justice for herself, she wanted to shine a spotlight on how we operated. And now it was glaring. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I logged into the dealership's CRM database from home and started going through recent sales. I wanted to see if Claire was right. If this went deeper than just me, she was. I found at least 15 cars sold in the past 2 months with clean inspections that were clearly copy-pasted. Half had no proper documentation for service work. Others had incomplete Carfax disclosures. The rabbit hole went deep. One in particular caught my eye. A red 2019 Honda Civic, sold to a single mom 3 weeks ago. The odometer had been tampered with. We'd rolled it back by nearly 30,000 miles. I remember that woman. She cried when she signed the contract. Said it was her first car since her divorce, and I had smiled and handed her the keys. I didn't sleep at all. At 7 a.m., I was already outside the dealership. When Tom arrived, I intercepted him at the door. We need to talk, I said. He looked me over. What now? I told him what I'd found. Everything. To my surprise, he didn't deny it. Of course it's rigged, he said, almost laughing. That's how the game works, Jacob. People don't come here for truth. They come to feel like they've won. We just make sure they do, on paper. But it's illegal. Not if they don't catch us. And if they do, we settle, we move on. I stared at him. You knew Claire was coming, didn't you? I asked. He didn't flinch. We got tipped off 2 weeks ago. Someone warned us a sting might happen. I just didn't know it would be you they'd bait. My heart dropped. I had been used. The whole time. You let me walk into it. He shrugged. Better you than me. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a dealership. This was about survival. And I had just stepped into the crosshairs of something much bigger than I'd imagined. Tom's words echoed in my mind for the rest of the day. Better you than me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a confession. I had been sacrificed to protect a machine that had been corrupt long before I ever joined it. And now I was faced with a choice. I could take the fall or I could burn the whole thing down. That evening, I drove to a nearby diner, not because I was hungry, but because I couldn't go home. I needed a place to think, somewhere away from the dealership, away from Tom, and away from the consequences closing in on me. I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink, pulled out my phone, and scrolled through Claire's LinkedIn profile. Public, professional, and intimidatingly impressive. Claire Donovan, Esquire. Partner at Donovan, Hess & Locke. Specialist in corporate consumer protection law, fraud litigation, and class action suits. She hadn't just wanted justice. She'd been hunting people like us for years. That's when it hit me. She hadn't picked our dealership at random. She came here for a reason. I clicked through articles, press releases, court cases, and then I found it. A case from 4 years ago. Her firm had gone after a major dealership group, Delbridge Automotive, and won a massive settlement for hundreds of customers. Fraud, odometer rollback, lemon resale. And Delbridge Automotive? That was Tom's previous employer before he opened his own franchise. My stomach twisted. Claire had come for him. Not me. And I had been the unlucky pawn who walked her right into the heart of the operation. The next day, I showed up early again. This time, I didn't avoid the security cameras. I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to know I wasn't hiding. I marched straight into the back office, logged into the internal system, and began downloading files. Deal histories, inspection documents, transaction records, emails. I copied everything onto a secure drive. As I worked, a realization formed. This place wasn't just operating in the gray, it was drenched in it. The evidence wasn't subtle. It was bold, sloppy, arrogant. They had never imagined someone on the inside would turn. That night, I sent an email. Subject: for Claire Donovan. From j.reed@hotmail.com. You were right. I have proof. I want to talk. Off the record. Meet me tomorrow, 7 p.m. Neutral location. Your pick. No police. No threats. Just truth. J. I didn't know if she'd respond. She replied in 8 minutes. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. St. Augustine Parking Garage, Level 3. Come alone. When I arrived the next evening, the garage was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting eerie shadows across the concrete. I spotted her, leaning against a pillar, arms crossed, blazer off, sleeves rolled up. You actually came, she said. I wasn't sure you would. Claire studied me carefully. Why now? Because I was wrong, I said, and I want to make it right. I handed her the drive. It's all there. Every shady sale, every fake inspection, every rollback. Tom's fingerprints are all over it. She took the drive but didn't look relieved. Just more focused. You know what this means, right? She asked. I do. If I use this, it won't just be Tom who falls, you'll go down too. I nodded. Unless. She tilted her head. Unless what? Unless I help you take the entire thing down from the inside. There are more deals happening every week. If you act now, you'll just catch the tail end. But if you give me 2 weeks, I'll give you everything. Real time. With names. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Then, why should I trust you? Because I've already lost everything. my reputation, my conscience. I'm not doing this to save myself. I'm doing it because I should have stopped it the first time." She stared at me for several more seconds. Then, finally, she reached into her bag, pulled out a small envelope, and handed it to me. Inside, a burner phone. "You report everything. Daily. Photos, emails, recordings. If you go dark for more than 24 hours, I assume you've flipped, and if you try to double-cross me, I won't." "I'm not finished," she said. "If you double-cross me, I won't just bring down Tom. I'll bring down every single person you've ever worked with." Her eyes burned into mine. "Deal?" "Deal." We shook hands. It felt like selling my soul in reverse. The next 2 weeks were a blur of paranoia, espionage, and quiet revelations. I wore a wire. I planted a hidden camera in the inspection bay. I forwarded internal memos and captured videos of Tom coaching new hires to massage the truth for better margins. The deeper I got, the more disturbing it became. We weren't the only dealership. Tom had connections with 3 others in the region. They shared tactics, strategies, even staff. It was a network, a fraud ecosystem, and Tom was a central node. Every night, I uploaded files from burner to burner, sent voice notes, images, and updates. Claire never responded directly, but I could tell she was watching. Then, on the 14th day, something changed. Tom pulled me into his office. "We've got a leak," he said, eyes narrowed. "Someone's been feeding info to a lawyer, a woman. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" I swallowed hard. "Of course not." He nodded slowly. Then he smiled. But it wasn't friendly. "I figured you'd say that," he said. "Because I've been watching you, Jacob, and I know what you've done." My blood ran cold. He pulled out a small black device and dropped it on the desk. "A recorder." "You've been sloppy," he said. Then he leaned in and whispered, "Now it's your turn to make a choice." I stared at the small black recorder on Tom's desk like it was a live grenade. He sat back in his chair, arms folded, eyes locked on mine. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It was a trap, tightly coiled and waiting to snap shut. "How long?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Long enough," he said. "You think you're the only one who knows how to watch people?" He slid open a drawer and dropped a stack of printed screenshots on the desk. Still frames from the security footage. Me in the back room. Me copying files. Me placing something, Claire's wire, in the service bay. "You should have stuck to sales, Jacob." I didn't speak. My brain was already racing. If he had footage, why hadn't he acted sooner? Why confront me now? Unless he didn't have everything. He didn't know about Claire's burner phone. Or the daily reports I'd been sending. That explained his fishing expedition. He was trying to rattle me, see if I'd confirm his suspicions or fold under pressure. So I made a choice. I lied. "You're right," I said, meeting his gaze. "I messed up. I was scared. After what happened with Claire, I thought, maybe if I collected some dirt, I'd have leverage. I never planned to use it." He leaned forward, interested. "So you're not working with her anymore?" I shook my head. I panicked. Thought if I had a little insurance, I could protect myself. But I haven't sent her anything. I swear. He stared at me a moment longer, then nodded slowly. "I want that drive," he said. "Everything you copied, you bring it to me tomorrow. And this ends. And if I don't?" His voice dropped an octave. "Then I go nuclear. I've got enough on you to make sure you're the one they prosecute, not me." I walked out of his office, with my lungs full of broken glass. That night I called Claire from the burner. No voicemail, just a single ring before she answered. "He knows," I said. "Define knows. He caught me on camera. Doesn't know about you yet, but he's close. He wants the drive." "What did you say?" "That I was working alone. That it was a panic move, a pause." "Smart," she said. "But now it's time to escalate." "To what?" "Jacob," she said flatly. "We're past exposing a bad dealership. This is organized fraud. If we don't nail this now, they'll bury you. And me." I could hear the resolve in her voice. She wasn't backing off, she was doubling down. "You trust me?" I asked. "No, but I trust what you've given me so far." That was the best I was going to get. The next day, I arrived at the dealership with a plan. I handed Tom a flash drive at 10 a.m. He plugged it into his laptop, expecting to see files. Instead, all he got was a single looping gif of a laughing clown. He didn't laugh. "You think this is funny?" he growled. "No," I said, eyes cold. "I think it's over." And before he could reply, two things happened simultaneously. 1. Claire walked through the front doors, this time with a small team behind her. 3 investigators, each flashing official credentials. 2. Unmarked police cruisers pulled up outside. Tom stood frozen in place. "You idiot," he whispered. "You actually did it." Claire approached slowly, folder in hand. She wasn't gloating. She was executing. "Thomas Delbridge," she said, "you're under investigation for multiple counts of consumer fraud, document tampering, odometer rollback, and conspiracy to defraud. We recommend you remain silent until your attorney is present." His face turned sheet white. Within minutes, they had taken over the dealership. Computers were confiscated. Offices sealed. Customers ushered out. My coworkers scattered like ants in a flood. And me? I sat in the same chair I'd used to scam people for years, watching it all fall apart. I felt nothing. Just a quiet sense of, finally. They let me go home that evening. I hadn't been arrested yet. Claire assured me that if I continued cooperating, I might walk away without charges. But immunity wasn't guaranteed. What was guaranteed? My reputation was dead. Word spread like wildfire across the local auto world. I was blacklisted within 24 hours. Every dealership within 50 miles wanted nothing to do with me, which made what happened next all the more confusing. 3 days after the raid, Claire called again. "Meet me," she said. We sat on a park bench near a lake just outside the city. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt this time, civilian gear, human. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "You gave us everything. Tom's done. His entire network is collapsing." I nodded. "Still doesn't change what I did." "No," she said, "but it changes what you do next." She reached into her bag and pulled out a document. A job offer. My eyebrows shot up. "You're kidding." "It's not with my firm," she said. "They'd never touch you. But I know someone in regulatory compliance, someone who hires people like you, people who've seen how the game is played from the inside." "Why would they trust me?" "Because you already blew the whistle when no one asked you to." I stared at the paper. 6 months ago I was building bonuses off lies. Now I was being offered a chance to make a living off truth. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe I belong in exile." Claire stood. "You belong wherever you decide to stop hiding." And with that, she walked away. No fanfare. No handshake. Just the quiet confidence of someone who knew how to expose the rot and still leave space for redemption. Later that week, I got a letter. It was from the single mother I'd scammed with the odometer rollback. She'd been one of the claimants in the suit. She wrote, "I heard what you did. At first, I wanted to hate you, but someone told me you were the one who brought it all down. So, thank you. My new car came in yesterday. This one's clean. And I hope your conscience is too." I read the letter 3 times, then I packed a bag. I didn't take the compliance job right away. I told Claire I needed time. What I didn't tell her was that I didn't trust myself yet. I wasn't sure if I wanted to build something honest, or if I was just running from the weight of everything I'd helped destroy. I spent the next week in a cheap motel outside Annapolis. No calls, no news. Just static TV and long walks near the bay. I was alone for the first time in years. Truly alone. And it forced me to do something I'd avoided for too long. Look inward. Because the truth was, Claire hadn't been the first smart person to walk into that dealership and get manipulated. I had scammed veterans, retirees, single parents, students, people who didn't even speak enough English to understand the paperwork. I had smiled through all of it. Even if I hadn't planned the system, I'd upheld it. And until Claire walked in, I had never questioned why I'd been so comfortable doing it. The answer? Because guilt is easy to bury when money piles high enough. One afternoon, I walked past a strip mall where a tiny lot sat wedged between a laundromat and a taco truck. It wasn't a dealership. Just a few used cars under a rusting sign that said Faith Motors. There was no front desk, no suits. Just a woman in her late 50s wiping down the hood of a dusty Corolla with a tattered microfiber towel. Her eyes flicked up when I passed. You look like you're thinking too loud, she said. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so startlingly human. We ended up talking for 20 minutes. She introduced herself as Marlene, said she'd been running the lot for 22 years, mostly to keep busy after my husband passed. When I asked how she managed in an industry full of sharks, she shrugged. Simple, she said. I tell the truth. The ones who walk away weren't meant to buy. The ones who stay, they come back. I almost told her who I was. But I didn't, not yet. That night, I dug the job offer Claire had given me out of my bag and placed it on the motel desk. Next to it, I scribbled a note on hotel stationery. What if we rebuilt it from scratch? Honest, transparent, no tricks, just real help. I didn't know who I was writing to, myself maybe. Or maybe the version of me I hoped still existed somewhere underneath the sales pitch and commission checks. When I finally called Claire again, she answered like she'd been expecting it. Changed your mind? She asked. I think I'm ready, I said, but there's one condition. Of course there is. I want to work with the clients directly, not just file reports. I want to hear their stories, see what was taken from them. A long pause. Then, that's not typical. I know, but neither was this case, she considered. I'll make some calls. 3 weeks later I started. It wasn't glamorous. I was assigned to a nonprofit legal center, focused on consumer fraud restitution. My job was to interview victims, gather statements, walk them through how to request refunds, and file claims against shady dealers. Some recognized me, most didn't. But none of them were angry, at least not the way I expected. They were tired. Resigned, grateful someone finally cared. One man cried when I found the paper trail that proved he'd been sold a salvage car as certified pre-owned. Another woman clutched my hand and said, "You're the first one who didn't treat me like I was stupid." Each time I felt something shift. The weight didn't go away. But I was finally carrying it in the right direction. One rainy afternoon, I came across a name in a case file that made my stomach clench. Naomi Adler, the single mom I had sold the rolled-back Civic to. Her refund had come through after the lawsuit. She'd bought a new vehicle, a used Toyota RAV4 from a dealer we hadn't flagged as corrupt. But something made me pause. Her file included a claim she'd submitted independently, long before Claire ever walked in, dated 6 months ago. A desperate email to our dealership's customer concerns inbox. This mileage doesn't feel right. The tires are worn unevenly. I tried getting a second opinion but can't afford another mechanic. Please help. I had seen that email. I had marked it as resolved and deleted it. Back then, it had been routine. Another voice in the dark I didn't feel obligated to answer. Now it haunted me, so I did something I wasn't sure I had the right to do. I visited her. Naomi lived in a small townhouse on the edge of Bowie. I wore plain clothes, left the ID badge in my car. She opened the door cautiously, her young daughter peeking from behind her leg. "I'm sorry to bother you," I said, "but my name is Jacob Reed. I used to work at the dealership that sold you the Civic." Her expression shifted in an instant, from confusion to recognition to wariness. I wanted to say I saw your first complaint, months ago, and I ignored it. I'm sorry, deeply." She said nothing for a long time. Then she opened the door wider. "Come in." We sat at her kitchen table. She didn't ask for excuses. I didn't offer any. She told me about the months she spent doubting herself. How people treated her like she should have known better. How the shame nearly swallowed her. I told her about the moment I stopped sleeping at night. At one point, her daughter brought me a juice box and whispered, "Are you the man who made Mommy cry?" Naomi gently pulled her away. But I answered honestly, "Yes, I was, but I'm trying to be the man who helps fix it now." She nodded. "Then keep trying. That night, I drove back to the motel with her words echoing in my mind. Then keep trying. Not a demand, not a reward, just a challenge, a path. 6 months later, I sat across from a fresh-faced dealership trainee at a fraud awareness seminar. He couldn't have been more than 22. Wide-eyed, eager, clean shirt, polished shoes, cheap cologne, just like I used to be. "Why would a dealership lie?" he asked. "I mean, wouldn't people find out eventually?" I gave him a look I'd practiced in the mirror far too often. They don't lie because they think they'll never get caught, I said. They lie because, for a while, it works. And when the check's clear, that silence feels like approval. He scribbled something on a notepad like I'd handed him a pearl of wisdom. But I hadn't. I'd handed him a confession. The truth is, most people in sales don't start out intending to cheat. They start out hungry for approval, success, a way out of whatever hole they were born into. The problem is, hunger doesn't come with a conscience, it just needs to eat. And mine had eaten a lot before I ever tasted guilt. Claire and I kept in contact. Occasionally, always on her terms. She called once after the final judgment came down in the case against Tom. He pled guilty, cut a deal. 2 years of probation, a suspended license to operate, and a 7-figure payout to avoid prison. Not justice, not really. But it was something. The network he'd built collapsed. 3 other dealerships shuttered. Their names quietly removed from signs, their inventory liquidated, their owners retired. She told me her firm was moving on to a new case in another state. "I hope you keep going," she said at the end of the call. "I don't think I know how to stop anymore," I replied. She chuckled once, dry, like paper, and hung up. I didn't return to big dealerships. I couldn't. But I did return to Faith Motors. Marlene, the woman with the towel and the old Corolla, had 1 salesman on staff and no website. She paid me under the table for the first few weeks, out of what little profit she made. She said I made her nervous. "You've got the look of someone who's run too fast for too long," she told me. "But maybe you're tired of running." She was right. So I stayed. We didn't sell fancy cars. We didn't push shady warranties. We sold what we had, as it was. And people came back, just like she said they would. Sometimes, when I sat at the folding card table we used as a desk, I'd think about the old dealership. The polished tile, the soft lies, the sound of printers churning out contracts like factory gears. And then I'd look around at the cracked pavement, the handwritten signs, the coffee can where we kept spare keys. And I'd feel okay. Not healed, not whole, but okay. One day, Naomi stopped by. She didn't say anything at first, just stood in the sun beside her RAV4. Sunglasses on, arms folded. Her daughter was taller now, clutching a half-eaten ice pop and swinging her legs against the bumper. Naomi looked at me for a long moment. "I heard you work here now." I nodded. "For now." "You do this for everyone?" she asked. "Only the ones who walk through the lot." She let a small smile touch her lips. "Well, I'm thinking of upgrading. Something used. But honest." "We've got both," I said. Then I added, "And if we don't, I'll tell you." She looked at her daughter, then back at me, and nodded. The next week, I was closing up when a letter arrived in a plain envelope. No return address, just a P.O. box. I opened it absent-mindedly, expecting a parts invoice or a DMV form. Instead, it was a single sheet of thick cream paper, typed, "Jacob, you were part of the problem. Then you became part of the solution." That doesn't erase what came before. But it does matter. People forget that justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about a second act. Keep going. CD. I read it 3 times, folded it, placed it in my glove box. I never heard from Claire again, but I think that was the point. She didn't need thanks. She just needed proof that I had learned something permanent. People ask me if I miss the money, the suits, the rush of a big commission, the power of persuasion. The answer is, sometimes. But I never miss the look. The one Naomi gave me when I handed her a lie with a smile. The one Claire gave me when she revealed she knew exactly who I was. The one I gave myself in the mirror on the worst night of my life. I work in truth now. It doesn't pay well. But it sleeps better. And after everything that happened, everything I helped build and everything I helped tear down, I figure that's worth more than a bonus ever was. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of this story. If it left you thinking, or feeling something deeper, good. That's the point. There are more stories like this. Stories that challenge, surprise, and maybe even change your perspective. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.